Good morning. How's everybody? Having a good summer so far? Good. My name is Julie Gubert, and I'm the Connections Director here. And I'm just so honored to be able to teach this morning and to share a little bit about our trip to Honduras. And I'll have some of my teammates come up and share. But first, a couple of announcements that I want to make. One is that some of our students have been on a mission trip this week, and they're coming back today. And they've been doing a hands-on building, serving others. So as you see some of our teenagers, ask them about that trip because that reinforces what God's doing in their hearts. And then tonight we're having our potluck supper. Does everybody remember that? What time is it going to be? 5:30. 5:30. So you can they're going to have hamburgers and hot dogs for us. So you can bring a side dish to share. Super fun, great way to meet people and enjoy each other's company. And then the third thing is August the 3rd is going to be a date that you're going to save in your calendars and even go online, and you're going to want to register to be here because that's going to be a family meeting where we'll have all of our BridgePointe family, just some update on things that are going on. And we're also going to celebrate Pastor Matt because he's been our pastor for 10 years now. So that's going to be really fun. And if you'll notice, too, there's a Bible out in the lobby. And that's for you to be able to write, if you have a favorite verse or a verse you want to speak over him, you could write him a note or express some gratitude for him leading us. Does that sound good? Awesome. Okay, so how many of you kind of knew that we were going to be talking about our Honduras trip today? Did anybody know that? And how many of you are like, oh, God, not that? I mean, if I'm honest, most of my growing up years and most of my adult life, whenever there was a church, in the church service, there was somebody talking about missions or being somewhere else, whatever, I turned a deaf ear. And I'm sorry to those of you that have been involved with missions, because that's probably hurtful to hear me say that. But that was, I guess I thought, well, that's far away. I can't relate to something I don't understand or I don't know what's going on over there. It's another language. I can't, how would I communicate with anybody? How could that possibly be good? I've got to give up paid time off to go there. I don't know if I want to do that. I've got to spend money to get there. Why don't I just kind of stay at home and just kind of watch for where God might want to do something in me at home? Or the other thing I thought was only certain people do mission work. Certain people do that. And in fact, I do growth track all the time. The spiritual gifts test that we'd give everybody, I think I scored the lowest about missions on the test of anybody ever. Just no interest at all. And I think now I've been to Honduras three years in a row. And this is not a particular plug for any particular missions trip, but just to be maybe or more open-minded. But I think I realized after coming back after the first trip that I had judgments and assumptions that really were not valid. And so maybe if that's you today, maybe we could just put aside our assumptions and our judgments and just listen for the testimony of the people that went and listen for what God might say to you about an openness to go and do whatever he asks you to do wherever. Does that sound okay? Are you willing to go with me there? Yeah? Okay. All right, so here's what I like to do. Let's just look at a couple of stories in the Bible to see how does Jesus decide who to invest in and how, okay? So let's look at Luke chapter 18, and this is the story about Bartimaeus. So Jesus is on his way in his final days, heading towards Jerusalem, getting ready to sacrifice his life for us. And on his way, he approaches Jericho. This is Luke 18:35. A blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. And when he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening, and they told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. He called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And those who led the way rebuked him, be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Can you picture this? If we were all in the crowd, even in church right now, what if Cody just started hollering out something, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. We'd all kind of look out and go, chill out, slow your roll, bud. Back up. But no, here's what Jesus did. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. And when he came near, Jesus said, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord, I want to see," he replied. And Jesus said to him, "Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you." And immediately he received his sight, followed Jesus, praising God. And when all the people saw it, they praised God also. So I look at this story and I go, Bartimaeus made effort towards Jesus. He just asked what you need. And Jesus, on his way, hears and cares about the one, cares for Bartimaeus. And then Bartimaeus uses his sight to follow Jesus. And it was a ripple effect because other people started following Jesus. So then the next story, which comes right after it, is about Zacchaeus. Now, somebody in here probably could sing the little song about Zacchaeus, right? The wee little man, but I'm not going to do that because it's not pretty. Luke 19, chapter 1, verse 1. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through, and a man was there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So interesting that he was kind of pompous and well thought of among some people because he was a tax collector and kept some money for himself, although the Jewish people didn't appreciate that, right? But he was like looked up to in some ways, but then he had a weakness of being short. So interesting that contrast, not unlike all of us, right? We have some areas where we're strong and other areas that are kind of weaknesses. So what does he do with his weakness? He ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. And when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." Imagine this. I mean, Jesus is the most important person in the world. Like he's the creator of all of us and our world and everything in it. And he's the one that stops and says, "Zacchaeus," and sees the little guy up in a tree among all the people. How amazing is it that God knows your name? He knows exactly who you are, and he loves, and he can't wait to impact and interact with us. And it's interesting to me, too, that I think about Jesus on his way. I mean, he was headed towards the cross, which is what he was going to do to obey his Father. So on his route of obedience, God ordained that moment for the two of them to have that little connection. And Jesus just dropped in a moment of heaven on earth, bringing heaven to earth into Zacchaeus' life. And then I think, well, Jesus is not here on the earth anymore. He's living in our hearts. The Holy Spirit is with us. So as we're walking away on our road to obedience, wonder what spot God says, "Stop right there. Look right there. Do you see that person? That's someone I want you to interact with. That's someone I want you to make an impact with." So amazing. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He's gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half my possessions to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay them back 4 times the amount." And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." So Zacchaeus pushed through his obstacle, and Jesus sees him, the one. And then Zacchaeus responds with a changed heart that became changed behavior. He became a different person. And interesting, the contrast between Zacchaeus and the rich young ruler, which is in a previous story. That guy wanted to have eternal life, but he didn't want to have to sacrifice anything or give up his worldly wealth. But here was Zacchaeus willing. And so from these stories, I look and I think, God has this magical, sovereign way of matching need meters with needs. He sees who needs, and he knows who can meet the need. And sometimes we're completely unaware of how we would be able to meet a need. We just don't even know. He might say, I just want you to do this. And you go, okay, I don't know if I know how to do that. But God can do that. He sees the people who have or are, and he knows how they're going to meet a need of somebody else's. So, wonder why did we pick to go to Honduras? Did we just pick? I mean, there's a million places around the world to go. We could go anywhere. But why did we pick Honduras? Because there's a person there that's family to us, family to this church. And I want to show a picture of Rhonda Jackson. She's on the right, and Kathy Scott is on the left. Do they look like sisters? Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, yeah, they do. So who knows whose Kathy's daughter? Does anybody know? Bethany. Bethany is our pastor's wife. So Rhonda Jackson, who runs the thing in Destino del Reino, is Bethany's aunt. And so when there's somebody in our family that is doing something, do we start to listen what they're doing and ask questions and get interested? Yeah, we do. Now, Rhonda, 25 years ago, God called her to Honduras. She actually has a pastor friend that went first to Honduras, and he came back and he said, you know what, Rhonda? All I could think about was that you were supposed to be there. He said, next time I go back, you're going to have to come with me, even if I have to pay your way. And so she did. She went back with him, and she felt the presence of God calling her to go to Honduras. She hardly knew where Honduras was. She certainly couldn't speak Spanish, and she left and went there 25 years ago. And here's what God called her to do. Start a school and bring in, I want you to pick the poorest of the poor kids in this country, from these villages. You go get them on a bus and bring them into this school. And I want you to teach them, because they don't have a family situation that's helping them get this. I want you to teach them how to be wise, godly leaders in this country. So that's what she's done. And guess how many students she has now? 370 students from kindergarten through 11th grade. 11th grade is when they graduate. And she has 25 teachers. And get this, she has 26 kids that live with her. These are kids that were just left places, just left on the side. When we went the first year, 3 years ago, there was a little girl named Hannah that she had found on the street and just brought in and just took her in as her own. So she's raised these kids over the years. When it's family, it becomes personal, doesn't it? Okay, so let me tell you what we did as the team starts coming out and getting on some chairs here. Let me tell you what we did when we were in Honduras. It was kind of like a vacation Bible school. We were working with 5th and 6th graders, and we did worship with them. We did teaching. We taught about Joseph in the Old Testament. And then we had small groups, and we did team building and sports. So we did all kinds of crafts as well. So super fun. And Rhonda has, I want to say, 7 or 8 of her older kids that she has raised that were our translators. So that's how we were helped with our. And now I will say, our team, just as Zacchaeus had a setback of being short, our team has had some setbacks. We started out with 10 people going, which was a little bit light. We were like, I don't know. We had 18 people last year. We're like, can we manage 62 kids with 10 of us? So we thought, and then early on, we had one of our members, through some conversation with family, kind of got spooked about going to Honduras. Is it going to be safe for me to go there? God worked through that. Then we had one of our leaders have to back out of the trip. And we were like, okay, wait a minute. Is God in this, or is this something we're trying to make happen ourselves? And so we had a little Zoom call. There were 9 of us at that time. And we said, are we thinking we need to stop? Maybe this isn't supposed to happen this year. Let's go another year. And we had some conversation. And I'll never forget, Roger was quiet. And then all of a sudden he said, Jesus is in this. I say we go. And so we all took a few days and prayed about it, and we all unanimously felt like we were still supposed to go, even though we were shorthanded. And then, even a week, well, it was about 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave, another one of our members couldn't go because her passport didn't come back in time. So we were working through, but we realized when we just bring what we have, God makes it enough. God makes it enough. So without further ado, I want you to hear from some of these wonderful people that are now my family in big ways, because you get to know people when you spend 6 or 8 days with them, right? You really get to know them. Okay, so Roger, tell us, how did God really confirm that you were supposed to be on the trip?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that we went, because when, I thought about missions kind of like you did, I was like, that sounds like something somebody else does, right? That sounds like somebody that has gifting or they're an educator. I had none of those things and didn't speak Spanish. So I would never have thought like, oh, that's a natural. But, Julie invited me to go, and the group became very close over the course of this mission trip. And so we traveled on Sunday, and then Monday morning we go into the school, and this place is a lot bigger than you think it is, right? This is a big place. And so we go into the gym where all the kids are going to assemble. And I'm like, this gym looks just like my kids' gym, right? They went to a Christian school just around the corner here. And it was identical. In fact, I sent them pictures, and I was like, don't you have these same banners, but just in English? And so that told me, like, this is not some strange culture, some strange place that I'm traveling to. These are the same kids. It's the same God, right? And so to me, that brought it home that we are closer to them than we think, right? That these kids are in a way our kids as well. They're just like our kids. So over the course of the week, we did a lot of teaching, right? So we had the story of Joseph, but we also did some fun things where we did some team building and really got close. We had some small groups, right? So we would get together with the small groups. This is one of the games that we played as a team building exercise. And so the kids have to hold this bucket up with their feet. You can see they're on their backs, but that thing is full of water, right? So nobody won. Nobody won at this game, and one person really did not win because they got a face full of water. But we had a lot of fun, and we really bonded with these kids even just over 4 days. And I would tell you, right, Jesus says even a cup of cold water is not going to be forgotten if you do it for a child in my name. And I think all of us can do that. And so if you're like me and you think, I really don't have any talent for this, I would encourage you, go. You're going to have a great experience. You are going to pour into these kids' lives. They do need to hear it from others besides just their normal teachers. And I think if you go in Jesus' name, you're going to feel the Spirit, and you're going to both give and receive love for these kids.
Awesome. Lindy, what about you? How did God confirm that you were supposed to be there?
Well, the very first day when all these kids come running in, it's kind of my favorite experience the first time because they just kept running in and just giving big hugs. But this year was even more special because there was a little boy that clung to my son last year, and I think there's a picture of him. That little boy hung on my son, and his name was Christopher. And so as these kids are walking in and they're all just super cute and hugging, he runs up and he's like, "Me, Christopher, me, Christopher." And I had sent him this picture of him and my son, like a small little tiny picture the year before. So I guess I was just surprised that I knew how they impacted me. I just didn't realize it was a mutual impact. The same day, maybe the next day, there were a few girls from my small group. I let them know the year before that I was going to take pictures and I was going to make little bookmarks for my Bible, and that's how I was going to remember to pray for them. And I then sent them all a little letter, a paper letter, and I mailed it to them. I honestly wasn't sure if they were even going to get it. And two of the girls get on the bus with the paper copy that I had mailed them. And they came up to me and they were and they wanted me to know that they still had the picture. And I think what kind of blew my mind is that when we were in Honduras, it was like downpouring rain. And these pictures looked like they had been preserved. Like I laminated mine. They looked pristine. And they get off the bus and I'm watching them walk up this hill and I'm like, it's downpouring. They're walking up mud hills. There's no electricity and running water. How are they keeping this so pristine? And then I thought, it just, it made me feel very special because I didn't realize that I was so special to them. I knew what they had done to transform my life the year before, but to see that they were holding on to something so precious and they remembered me, I was a little blown away. So for all of the familiar faces that are in here that have been to Honduras, they were looking for you. Because this little boy also asked, where's your son? I think he said, where are you son or something when we were on the bus. So he knew my son wasn't there that year. So just a reminder that you are remembered.
Ava, what was your favorite part of being at Honduras?
My favorite part of being in Honduras was probably the small groups, which I was so nervous about having to lead one on my own. Last year, when I had to lead one with another woman, but it was just so hard. Like, the dynamic was just not working, and that's the problem we might face when we're putting all these girls together, is they might not be really good friends. But this year, it was just so different, and I was nervous about having to pray for them, but when I asked what they wanted me to pray for, they were just so open with me, and I was actually able to do it. I'm just so happy about that.
That's so awesome. And Ava came to Honduras with us last year, and then she came back again this year in high school, taking a week out of her summer to come and do this. Why did you come back a second year?
I think there's a picture. Yeah, so this is Linda. She was part of my small group last year, and on the last day of our trip last year, we had a worship night, and it was at the school in the gym. All the parents and kids came, and they just worshiped, and it was just amazing to watch. And as we were leaving, all the kids were waving from the buses, saying bye, and then I saw Linda, and she was yelling my name, and I went over, and I held her hand for a second, and that was just really impactful that she would do that. And I just knew I had to come back the next year just to show her that I am thinking about her and that I've been praying for her. Yeah.
So awesome. And this year she led a small group of 9 girls herself, 5th and 6th grade. I mean, that's huge. And and look, you'll see when the other people come out too, she was the one young person with all of us. Okay, so she endured all of us in our older people issues. But thank you for being with us. Mark, what about you? How did God kind of help you to see that you were supposed to be there?
Well, excuse me. My question was, why do you go, and what could you give? We started out every morning in 2 large groups. The ladies had the girls, the men had the boys. Then we broke out into small groups. And the 5th and 6th grade boys that I had, we would open with prayer every morning. The boys would always say, let's, pray for my mom, pray for my sister, pray for my sister's kids, pray for my aunt. They never talked about pray for my dad. Then I realized why God had me there and why they had me in that specific group of boys. Because Dad being in Vietnam for 2 tours, he was really never around. So that was my relationship with these boys. I could relate to them about something. And thing is, you go there to reach out to them, but then what happens is you get a blessing from it because you're getting healed from stuff of your childhood at the same time, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. We're so glad that you were here with us. And yes, it's interesting how God uses things that were difficult for us or experiences that we've been through to find a connection with somebody else. So awesome. Thank you guys, all of you. And so I'm going to ask that the other rest of the team come out and let's hear a little bit more from them. So powerful to to just experience how God handpicks each one of us on the team and says, I want you to go. I want you to go. Some people come back again, but there's always new people that come. And I don't think it's a God thing how he picks and how he calls each one of us. So we have Rick Evans and Rhonda and then Rick Gubert, my Rick. Okay. All right. So Rick, what has God been doing in you, stretching you, changing you? How has he been working?
Well, I think some of you guys know is 3 years. Me and Julie are the only ones that's been all 3 years in the last 3 years. So we're the OGs. And the first year it was a sports camp, and I've been a coach just about all my life. And it's like, Rick, there's a sports camp going on. I'm like, okay, cool. And then another guy comes up, hey, Rick, it's a sports camp. So after 3 times, I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I'm going. I'm good. So then last year, it was asked to go again, and I was like, yeah, I'm all in. They're like, hey, you're going to be a leader. I'm like, okay. So you're challenging me again, huh? I said, okay, I got you. So this year, well, let's go back to the Miss Lindy story. So last year, we sitting around after our day with the kids, and we're talking, and I had a really casual relationship with God. Never really read the Bible a lot. You know, I'd pick it up every once in a while, but Miss Lindy says, you need to read the Bible. I was like, well, why? I'm a believer and all that stuff. She goes, no, you really need to read it. So probably in the last year, I read the Bible more than I have in 59 years of my life. And then I was told this year, hey, you're going to teach a lesson. I'm like, really? Again? So this is 3 years in a row that God's challenged me. So I look at it as God using Honduras and me to challenge my walk with him, as well as me using me to help these kids in their walk. So, plus I was put there to give Julie a hard time for a whole week. I think I did a good job.
And he's acting like he's still continuing on that path. But so grateful because Rick has brought so much provision. He has contacts, and he is a giver, and he inspires other people to give. The stuff he collects for us, dodgeballs and drawstring bags and T-shirts and all the things, it's just amazing, and that's part of why God had you there too. What about you, Rhonda?
Well, sometimes when you are trying to figure out, am I supposed to go or not, and you're wondering, am I going to be impactful to the children, or is God going to be provide impact for me? And I used to be a co-director of a ministry, spent 25 years, and one of the things I did was Bible study and devotion for tweens through young women on a weekly basis. While 25 years is a long time, and you can kind of get burned out, and I did. That was 8 years ago, and I haven't done any type of Bible study or devotion or teaching since. So God kind of revived that a little bit in me this time.
We're so grateful. Rhonda is a teacher of teachers. She travels around and educates educators for school systems. And so her experience and her confidence and belief in all of us that we can do these things. We can teach these kids. And she is an incredible craft person. Oh my gosh. Tie-dyed shirts, all the things we did craft-wise, and she is a perfect packer. She can pack some suitcases like nobody else. Amazing. Tell them the story about Jennifer in the bleachers.
Yeah, there's this one particular girl who blessed my socks off. Very first time we were with the kids, our 5th and 6th graders, we started with the girls with worship. And there was this one sweet little girl named Jennifer who just was worshiping with such innocence and purity and joy in her spirit. I snapped a quick little picture just so I could remember that moment. Same girl, a couple of days later, was crying on the bleachers. And so I just went over and gave her a hug, and couldn't communicate very well. We did that through Google Translate. She told me what was going on, and her friends had been mean to her. So I grabbed my phone and I showed her the little picture that I had snapped of her. And I told her I took this because I wanted to remember that moment and how you were blessing me. And I wanted to remember that. I wanted to remember you forever. And she just reached out and grabbed my hand. And it was about time to go. So she grabbed my hand and she pulled me with her all the way to her bus. And along the way, she wanted to stop at her classroom and show me her desk. So that was just a little sweet little moment. It just was just one.
So awesome. Okay, Rick, how about you? How did God use you to impact the boys that you were working with?
Y'all need to learn a little Spanish. So, you ready? Who knows how to say orange? Naranja. Equipe Naranja. That was my team. We all had lanyards. And so there'd be chaos going on, and I'd yell out, Equipe! And they'd all go, Naranja! And they all come running over. So that worked great. It's a good way to keep 5th and 5th and 6th graders organized. So I've been doing kids here for years, and the original reason I did it was, frankly, because they needed a little help. But also, I decided to do it every week, because if I didn't do it every week, I didn't get to know them. And that was my issue with Honduras, is hard to get to know them. Well, now the format is with small groups. You get an hour or so, and like Ava was talking about, she was in charge. She could decide what to do, what not to do. And you also get big credits for the crafts. She knew how to do tie-dye better than anybody I've seen before. Anyway, so you have this group, and for the guys, it was only 5 or 6 guys, and I had my Equipe Naranja going on. We were teaching them how to say, how y'all doing? You know, and they said, okay, 1, 2, 3, how y'all doing? But the best part, and we also played Roja Verde, right? Red light, green light, huh? Come on. No, but the best part was in the small groups, you could get to know them, and on the final day, I decided I'd do them one-on-one. Now, there's a translator. My translator's Diego, and Diego's awesome. He had grown up through Destino. Started at, I don't know, 5. I was doing pretty well. Not that there's anything wrong with a little crying, okay? All right? If our pastor can do it, so can I. All right, so the final day, they're over there doing their journals. We had these little journals, and I had them try and do a little thing about your family tree. It's a tough subject there. The family trees were not coming out anything like you would think. But so I bring them over one at a time. And I have my translator, Diego, there, but I'm looking him right in the eyes, looking the child right in the eyes. And I'm doing my best, a little Spanish, a little English. Diego's helping, all that stuff. But basically, I thought, Akipe, Naranja, help me out. I'm trying to get them to say that Jesus loves them. And so, you know, Jesus me ama. Jesus me ama. And I'm looking them right in the eyes, and they're like, yeah, I get it, I get it. And I repite, repite, repite. And I don't know, it was a connection that I felt. I hope they felt it. I figured if I couldn't leave them with anything, I wanted to make sure they knew Jesus loved them. I'd seen their family tree maps that were difficult. They've got a lot of things stacked up against them, but they're trying hard. They're always smiling. They show up every day, bright and shiny, ready to go. My Team Orange was very competitive, trying to do things right. I'd see him across the room doing something or other. Akipe, Naranja. I'm supposed to say, Jesus, mi amo. I get mixed up in my Spanish still. But it was a moving moment for me. I think it was for them. I look forward to seeing them next year.
That's awesome. And I will say, one of my favorite moments was we had given them all journals because we wanted them to be able to write and process some things that they were learning. And I had asked them a question. I said, would anybody like to share what's in your journal? And nobody said anything. And I was like, okay, great. Where are we going with this? Well, finally, one little girl, she pointed at me and she held up her journal. And I said, do you want me to see what's in your journal? And she said, yes. And I said, can the translator read it to me? And she said, yes. And so she proceeded to read to me that I have a terrible life. I'm not good enough. I've been told so many times I'm not worth anything. I'll never amount to anything. And I have incredible pressure to perform at school, to make really high grades. And my brothers, that expectation is not there for them. I am sad. I wish I wasn't alive. And she said, every morning I wake up and wish I wasn't alive. And I just sat there and I thought, oh my God, this is so heavy. And so I just waved for her to come over, and she's almost as tall as I am. Her name is Astrid. And I was sitting down, and I just put her on my lap, and I just held her really tight, and we just cried. We just cried. And then as a few of the days were going by, I just connected with her through Google Translate to make sure that she had given her heart to Jesus, which she had. And I told her that she was beautiful and smart, and that she was a leader. She had more English than many of the kids there. And I told her, I said, will you promise me that you'll keep pressing on, that you'll keep on going? And she said yes. And we agreed that we would communicate back and forth, write letters and that kind of thing. But these are the kind of moments of stop-down moments of, have I reached the spot, Jesus, where you wanted me to stop? And did I attend to the person that you wanted me to attend to? Super, super powerful. Thank you guys for coming up. I appreciate you so much. It's just neat to see how God matches need meters with needs. Look at this picture. Do you guys know what a squishmallow is? Okay, I knew somebody knew what squishmallows were. Okay, listen to this. Andrea Cottingham's daughter, Megan, used to work at Learning Express, and she collected squishmallows for years. And I asked something on Facebook about squishmallows, and somehow we got connected. And I said, do you have a squishmallow that I could give for a prize? And she said, oh, we have squishmallows. I said, like, what do you mean? She goes, oh, I have a lot of them. I said, like, do you have 62 of them? She said, yes. She said, oh, we'd be happy to give those to you to take to Honduras for all those kids. So who do you think was working on vacuum packing and getting those darn things there? Oh, yes. But isn't that like God, to see what one little thing could mean to a child that feels lost and it doesn't have family that's supporting them, that kind of stuff, meeting needs. I just think about how God matched up the different ones of us to be there at those particular times. So along your journey, all along our journey of obedience, let's watch for the stop-down moments, whether it's to go on a mission trip, whether it's to talk to somebody in our neighborhood, because those moments are the moments we experience God doing something miraculous, dropping a little bit of heaven into a world of despair and the pollution of sin. We've heard Matt talk about that, how when we do something that images God really well, it like pushes away the pollution, the sadness and the despair that's in our world. And we want to be open to that. So maybe it doesn't so much matter where we go, as long as wherever we go, we bring our whole heart and everything we have and say, you can do whatever you want with it, God, and let me see it. Let me see it and give you glory for what you're doing. And do you know what's one thing that's really cool? Is through our church family and our friends, the people that we know and asked, we said, hey, would you financially or prayerfully or both support us? We raised $10,000 over and above what it cost us to make the trip so that we could give it to Destino del Reino. Do you know what kind of an impact that made to a woman that's our family, Rhonda? She was amazed and so grateful because we helped her to see God caring for the ministry that he prompted her to start. What if we'd quit? What if we'd said, nah, let's not go. Let's not go. So in these moments that we're getting ready to transition to our communion time, I want you to think about what is God saying to you through the testimony of what we've shared today? How are you limiting what God how he can use you? And where does God want to send you to image him well? So as you have opportunity, you can go to the tables for the communion around the room. There's candles to light, and you can write a prayer request. But just have a moment with God.